There is a moment in human history, or rather, in the Gnostic account of human history, which is the account that the tradition preserved because it believed the conventional account was a distortion, designed to prevent exactly the recognition this text was written to produce, when everything that was known was almost lost. Not gradually, not through the ordinary erosion of time and forgetting, through the deliberate intervention of a power that understood with perfect clarity what the knowledge it was threatening to erase actually consisted of, and why its erasure would serve the administrative interests of the material world's managers. The moment is the deathbed of Adam, the first human being, the one into whom Sophia breathed the divine spark that gave Yaldabaoth's inert construction genuine life. The one in whom the Pleroma's light was established within the Demiurge's world for the first time is dying. The material body the Demiurge fashioned for him is dissolving. And before it dissolves completely, Adam calls Seth to him and whispers. What Adam whispers to Seth before he dies is the content of the Apocalypse of Adam, a Sethian Gnostic text discovered at Nag Hammadi, one of the oldest documents in the collection, preserving what the tradition believed was the original transmission of divine knowledge. From the first pneumatic soul to the first heir of that transmission, it is called an apocalypse, not because it describes the end of the world in the popular sense, but because apocalypsis means uncovering, unveiling, the removal of the veil that prevents the genuine from being seen. The Apocalypse of Adam is the transmission of the unveiled truth from one generation to the next, at the moment when the one who carries the truth is about to leave the form through which he has been carrying it. Adam tells Seth about what he and Eve had before the Demiurge diminished them, about the glory they dwelt in before the false creator's jealousy stripped them of it, about the angels who came to warn them that time was running out, and about the specific knowledge, the gnosis that the Demiurge has been working since the creation of the material world to prevent from being passed on, that Seth must carry into the generations that follow. Tonight we open the Apocalypse of Adam completely, not as ancient mythology, as the transmission it was written to be, the knowledge whispered at the deathbed from one generation to the next. Across every attempt the Archon system has made to interrupt the chain, reaching you now, because the chain has not been broken. Adam's account of the original state begins not with the Garden of Eden as the mainstream tradition describes it, but with something the Genesis narrative was specifically designed to replace. Adam says, "I lived in the eternal knowledge of the God of truth, and I was with Sophia, my consort, who is great. She taught me a word of knowledge of the eternal God. We resembled the great eternal angels, for we were higher than the God who created us and the powers with him, whom we did not know. We resembled the great eternal angels. We were higher than the God who created us." This is the Gnostic account of the original human state, not the innocent simplicity of creatures in a garden, but the luminous awareness of beings who carried within them the Pleroma's light, and who, in carrying it, exceeded the Demiurge who had fashioned their material forms. The glory that Adam and Eve dwelt in before the fall was not the simple beauty of creation. It was the specific quality of pneumatic recognition, the direct knowing of the divine that the Pleroma's light naturally produces in any consciousness that has not yet been stripped of its capacity to perceive it. The stripping is what the mainstream tradition calls the fall. The Gnostic account identifies it precisely. Then God, the ruler of the aeons and the powers, divided us in wrath. The jealous creator stripped Adam and Eve of their spiritual knowledge. The glory in our hearts left us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge that breathed within us, and we were darkened in our understanding, and the glory that was in our hearts left us. The fall in the Gnostic account is not the consequence of disobedience. It is the consequence of the Demiurge's jealous intervention, his recognition that the human beings he had fashioned contained something that exceeded him, and his systematic effort to strip that something from them before it could develop into the full recognition that would have dissolved his authority entirely. He did not fully succeed. The Apocryphon of John is explicit. He could not remove the Pleroma light entirely from Adam and Eve because the light was not his to remove. He could only obscure it, cover it with the additional layers of material conditioning, desire, fear, and identity that would prevent most of the pneumatic souls that followed from ever developing the recognition the light made possible. The whisper at the deathbed is Adam passing to Seth the specific knowledge of what was obscured, what the obscuring consists of, and how the obscuring can be seen through. The Apocalypse of Adam is that whisper written down, After the account of the original state and its disruption, Adam tells Seth about the 3 encounters with divine messengers, the 3 moments in which the Pleroma's intelligence penetrated into the demiurge's domain and warned Adam that the time of the material world's undivided authority was limited. The first enlightener appeared and said to Adam, "Arise, Adam, from the sleep of death, and hear about the aeon and the seed of that man to whom life has come." The second enlightener appeared and renewed the gnosis that the demiurge had obscured. The third enlightener appeared with the most complete revelation, the account of the soul's divine origin, the structure of the archon domain, and the specific quality of recognition that constitutes liberation from it. These 3 enlighteners are the apocalypse of Adam's most cosmologically significant feature, because they reveal something about the structure of the Gnostic tradition's own understanding of how genuine transmission works. Gnosis does not travel through single unbroken institutional channels. It appears, disappears, and reappears, always in response to the specific conditions of the moment, always through the medium of the consciousness that is most prepared to receive and transmit it, always in the form that the specific historical moment requires. The 3 enlighteners are not 3 historical figures. They are 3 expressions of the same Pleroma intelligence, descending into the material world to renew the knowledge that the archon system is perpetually working to extinguish. The tradition that received and preserved the apocalypse of Adam understood itself as participating in this rhythm of enlightener appearance. The text was not a historical record of things that had happened. It was a living transmission. The whisper at the deathbed extended forward through time, appearing in each generation in the form that generation required, preserving the essential content of what Adam told Seth while clothing it in the conceptual vocabulary and narrative frameworks that each new historical context made available. This means the Apocalypse of Adam is not a text that reached its intended audience in the 2nd century CE when it was first composed. Its intended audience is every generation of pneumatic souls that the demiurge's management system has been trying to prevent from receiving the transmission, including this one, including you, reading this now, encountering the whisper in the form that the present moment has made available for its transmission. The Apocalypse of Adam describes the flood, the great catastrophe that the mainstream tradition presents as divine punishment for human wickedness, in terms that reveal its actual function within the Gnostic cosmological framework. The flood is not punishment. The flood is the demiurge's attempt to destroy those who carry the gnosis that Adam transmitted to Seth. The text says that the god of the aeons unleashed rain to destroy all flesh, specifically targeting those carrying the life of knowledge inherited from Adam and Eve. The flood is an act of epistemic terror, the attempt to prevent the survival of the transmission, but the transmission survived, through Noah, through Seth's descendants who were preserved by divine intervention, through the specific communities the Gnostic tradition identifies as the seed of Seth, the pneumatic souls who carried the genuine transmission from generation to generation through every attempt the archon system made to interrupt it. The Apocalypse of Adam is explicit about this. Some were received into another glory and another way because they possessed the knowledge of the hidden eternal God. Their survival was not random. It was the Pleroma's response to the demiurge's attempt at epistemic genocide, the preservation of the transmission through every catastrophe the archon system deployed against it. The pattern the flood establishes is the pattern of the entire history the Apocalypse of Adam narrates. Each time the transmission appears to be on the verge of extinction, the Pleroma's intelligence intervenes to preserve it, through whatever means are available, through the preservation of Noah's family, through the Exodus, through the prophetic tradition, through the Essene communities who buried their texts at Qumran, through the Gnostic communities who sealed their texts at Nag Hammadi, through the accidental discovery by a farmer in 1945 that returned those texts to the world. The transmission was not continuously preserved through institutional succession. It was preserved through the Pleroma's intervention in the moments of greatest archon pressure against it. I have created a free guide to accompany this teaching. It is called The Apocalypse of Adam, a Gnostic guide to the original transmission and how to receive it. Inside you will find the specific practices drawn from the Apocalypse of Adam and the Sethian tradition, for reconnecting with the whispered transmission, for developing the quality of interior recognition that Adam was passing to Seth, and that every enlightener in every generation has been working to deliver to the consciousness prepared to receive it. The link is in the description below. The closing section of the Apocalypse of Adam is one of the most remarkable passages in all of Nag Hammadi literature because it breaks the frame of the narrative and speaks directly to the reader in a way that no other Gnostic text quite matches. Adam says, through the text, through the transmission, through the chain of enlighteners that has carried the whisper from his deathbed to this moment. These are the revelations which Adam made known to Seth his son, and his son taught his seed about them. This is the hidden knowledge of Adam which he gave to Seth, which is the holy baptism of those who know the eternal knowledge, through those born of the Word, and the imperishable illuminators, those who came from the holy seed, Yesius Mazareus Yesidakius, the living water. The living water. In the Sethian tradition, this phrase carries the same content as the kingdom within you in the Valentinian tradition, and as the pneumatic spark in the Sethian cosmology itself, the pleroma's actual presence within the human soul, available to every consciousness that carries the seed of Seth, alive and active, and constitutionally incapable of being permanently extinguished by anything within the demiurge's domain. The hidden knowledge of Adam is not a set of theological propositions. It is the recognition of the living water within you, the specific quality of interior, knowing that the pneumatic spark naturally produces in any consciousness that has developed the interior, stillness in which that knowing becomes audible. The whisper at the deathbed has been traveling toward you since Adam called Seth close and said what the Archon system most needed to prevent from being said. It has traveled through Seth's seed and the Sethian communities and the sealed jar at Nag Hammadi, and the farmer who broke the jar in 1945, and the scholars who translated what was inside it, and the teachers who carried the translation into the living transmission, and this teaching in this moment. The chain has not been broken. The whisper is reaching you now, not as historical information about an ancient Gnostic text, as the living water that the text was written to deliver, the recognition of the pleroma's presence within you that every enlightener in every generation has been working to facilitate. Receive it. The demiurge's attempts to interrupt the transmission, the floods and the book burnings and the community scatterings and the institutional suppressions have all failed. The transmission is here. The living water is within you. Subscribe to the Gnostic Archive, where we carry Adam's whisper forward in every generation's form, week by week, until the recognition it was always pointing toward has been so thoroughly established in so many pneumatic souls that the Archon system's ability to manage the transmission's reception is finally, irreversibly exhausted. The apocalypse of Adam's account of the 13 kingdoms, the 13 different explanations that the world's traditions have offered for the origin of the Illuminator, the divine figure who brings genuine gnosis into the material world in each generation, is one of the most remarkable passages in all of Gnostic literature, and one of the least discussed. Adam tells Seth that after the flood, 13 kingdoms will arise, each with their own account of where the Illuminator came from. 12 of these kingdoms will offer explanations rooted in the material world's own categories. The Illuminator was born of a virgin, or of a great angel's desire, or of a specific lineage, or through miraculous natural phenomena. Each explanation is sincere, and each explanation misses the essential point. The 13th account, the one the text treats as the genuine account, the one that the 12 material world explanations were all reaching toward without being able to articulate, says simply, God chose him. From all the eternal realms he took power to himself. He adorned that place with all good things, and he set the eternal light there, and made it shine. The 13th account does not locate the Illuminator's origin in the material world at all. It locates it in the eternal realms, in the pleroma. The Illuminator who brings genuine gnosis into each generation is not a product of the material world's history. He is the pleroma's response to the material world's condition, the specific descent of genuine divine intelligence into the specific moment of the material world's history that requires it most urgently. This is the apocalypse of Adam's account of what Jesus was, not the founder of an institutional religion, not the product of a specific historical lineage, not the fulfillment of a specific prophetic tradition, but the 13th Illuminator, the pleroma's response to the first century's specific configuration of Archon pressure against the accumulated transmission, the descent of genuine divine intelligence into a moment of maximum institutional suppression, carrying the transmission that Adam whispered to Seth in the form that the specific moment required, the teachings of the interior kingdom, the sacred union that ignites the divine spark, the specific quality of interior recognition that the Archon system's most sophisticated century of management was most urgently working to prevent from reaching the consciousness prepared to receive it. And the pattern continues. The pleroma's response to the suppression of the 13th Illuminator's teaching, the suppression that the Nicene councils and the canonical selection and the destruction of the Gnostic communities represented was the preservation of the texts at Nag Hammadi, their eventual recovery. The pleroma does not allow the transmission to be permanently interrupted. When one channel of the transmission is closed, another opens. When the institutional channel closes the canonical Gospels to the deeper teaching, the clay jar in the Egyptian desert preserves the non-canonical texts until the moment when they can be recovered and the transmission resumed. We are in one of those moments. The texts have been recovered, the translation has been accomplished, the transmission is available in a form that the Archon system's management of institutional religion has not been able to prevent from reaching the consciousness prepared to receive it. You are receiving it now, not because you found the right institution or adopted the right doctrinal position, but because the pneumatic spark within you has been moving toward the transmission with the intelligence that is native to genuine pleroma light. The chain of transmission from Adam's deathbed whisper to Seth has not been broken. It has traveled through sealed jars and scholarly translations and teaching lineages and digital transmission and this specific moment of your reading, and it has arrived. The living water is here. The 13th Illuminator's teaching is available. The Archon system has not succeeded in interrupting the chain. Receive what has been traveling toward you since before you were born into this lifetime. Subscribe to the Gnostic Archive, where we are one of the channels through which the transmission continues in this generation, week by week without interruption. The Apocalypse of Adam closes with a phrase that every generation of the tradition's transmission has understood as addressed to them specifically, in the specific conditions of their specific moment. This is the holy baptism of those who know the eternal knowledge. The word baptism here carries the full Gnostic content of the term, not the ritual washing of institutional religion, but the immersion in genuine gnosis, the complete saturation of the consciousness with the recognition that the eternal knowledge produces. And those who know, not those who have been told, not those who have adopted the correct theological position, not those who belong to the authorized institution, those who know, the specific, direct, unmediated knowing that the pneumatic spark produces when it has been given the interior conditions in which to recognize itself. This is what Adam was transmitting to Seth at the deathbed. This is what Seth transmitted to his seed. This is what every enlightener in every generation has been working to transmit to the consciousness prepared to receive it. And this is what has been traveling toward you through sealed jars and scholarly translations and teaching lineages, and this specific transmission, arriving now in this moment, as the recognition that is either occurring in you or pointing toward itself by its very non-occurrence. Either you recognize what the eternal knowledge is pointing at, or the non-recognition is precisely locating what needs further practice. Both are the transmission doing what it was always designed to do, moving the consciousness toward the recognition that Adam whispered to Seth before the material form dissolved. The whisper is here, let it be received. Adam's whisper to Seth before the material form dissolved was not a single transmission completed in a single moment. It was the beginning of a chain. Seth transmitted to his children transmitted to theirs. The chain moved through generations, through catastrophes, through the flood and the scattering and the institutional suppressions, each time apparently threatened with extinction, and each time preserved through the specific intelligence of those who understood what they were carrying and what would be lost if they allowed it to be lost. You are holding one end of that chain right now, not as a passive recipient of a completed transmission, as the next link, what you do with what you have received, whether you carry it forward into the quality of your daily practice, your relationship with the souls around you, and the specific contribution your pneumatic consciousness makes to the restoration that Sophia's return is producing, determines what the next generation of the chain receives. The Apocalypse of Adam ends with the transmission being written down specifically so that it will survive the forms through which it has been transmitted. We are the writing down of this generation's form of the transmission. The Gnostic Archive is one of the vessels the chain is moving through in this moment. What you carry from it into your inner life and your practice and your genuine recognition is what continues the chain into the next moment and the next generation. The whisper has reached you. Carry it forward. Subscribe to the Gnostic Archive. The chain continues through your choice to keep it moving.